Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulih al-Kareem, amma ba'd. Today we are going to talk about one of the great scholar. I think or most of you, all of you know him um, because of his great work of Maqasid. His name is Imam Shatibi. Imam Shatibi. He is from Grenade, Granada. I think yes, he is from the 13th century scholar. Yes, he lived in the province of Granada. That time it was Andalusia, Spain. His full name was Ibrahim bin Musa bin Muhammad al-Shatibi. He used to be known as a faqih, jurist of Maliki madhab, and also people call him Abu Ishaq. Yeah? But he was quite famous by the name of al-Shatibi. Right? So he has done tremendous work. MashaAllah, everything is in the huge volumes. There is a work actually, al-I'tisam, the famous book of Imam Shatibi. It's a kind of an encyclopedia on the topic of the religious innovations, the bid'at. He talks about the things that we should not do in the name of bid'at. The other side, he talks about al-Muwafaqat. That is the other book that we are going to talk about today, which is actually Kitab al-Muwafaqat fi usul al-Shari'ah. So this is one of the important book of Usul al-Fiqh, where he talks about Islamic jurisprudence and also Maqasid al-Shari'ah. This book was published by Dawlat Tunis. That was the first time. There are a couple of things I think you need to know before we talk about this great scholar. Before we talk about his economic ideas, we need to talk about him as well as his book al-Muwafaqat. So Imam Shatibi, I think most of us we know that he has actually written on al-Maqasid, right? In fact, some of us even we thought that it was this Imam who brought al-Maqasid. The truth is, if you go back to his work and if you see other people's work, the idea of Maqasid is always there. The idea, right? Whether it was mentioned by the name of Maqasid, or sometime it will be mentioned by the name of Mahasin, or sometimes they use the word Asrar. Yeah. So there are so many words scholars they use for this purpose of explaining the objectives of Sharia. But what I want to tell you, before you know all these ideas of Maqasid, you need to know there is a study of Maqasid. There is a ilm al-Maqasid, right? Maybe the idea of Maqasid is actually quite old, and it's been there since the time of since the time Allah created the world. If you ask me what is your purpose of living, So everyone should ask this question: why am I here? Why this world was created, right? Why people are living in this world? What is the purpose of living, and what we are going to do after we die? So these are the questions, of course, need to be answered. And of course, there is a purpose of every existence. Why we are here, why I'm teaching, why you are listening, why we are in this university, for everything. So now the idea of maqasid is actually quite old. It's always there, right? But the steady, here we are talking about the steady, as a steady maqasid sharia, it is actually not quite old, it's quite new. So you need to keep that in mind, the steady, because many scholars talk about, like I told you, in many different ways, different words. But it was Imam Shatibi, the first person, the first scholar who wrote specifically for that. Still, it is a part of his book, al-Muwafaqat. That's why I wanted to talk about, before I talk about the idea of Maqasid, how it is related to economic development. Let us talk about the origin of this scholar and also the work of Maqasid. So he wrote a book, it is called al-Muwafaqat, right? He wrote a book of Muwafaqat. But inside his book, he divided his work into 4 divisions, 4 great sections. Number 1 is ahkam, the rulings. Yeah, so all those verses, commands from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam hadith and everything, you can actually extract the hukum from there. So what are the hukum? What are the rulings on each and everything? So he talks about the rulings first. The second division, you need to know, because these 4 divisions are quite important to understand the whole scenario of his work, and then you need to know where exactly maqasid fits in. The first one he wrote about ahkam. I mean, the first chapter he talked about ahkam. The second chapter, yes, he talks about maqasid, because there are so many rulings that Allah asks you to do. There are do's and there are don'ts. But the question is, why? Why there are do's? Why Allah asks us to pray 5 times? Why Allah asks us to do fasting? Why zakat? Why hajj? Right? Why we have to be good to our parents? Why we have to take care of a family? Why we have to do certain things? 1, 2, 3, 4. There are so many do's, yeah? And then there are so many don'ts. You don't steal. You don't drink prohibited alcohol drinks. You don't drink something that prohibited. You don't eat something that prohibited. You don't do adultery. You don't cheat. You don't lie. These are the things that don't. So why? So what is exactly the purpose of do's and don'ts? He talks about in the second chapter of his book, al-Muwafaqat. That is what we call al-Maqasid, number 2. Right, you got it? Okay, remember ahkam and then maqasid. Then you have al-adil. Sorry. Number 3, you have al-adillah. That is we call evidences. Al-adillah, al-istidlal. So this is number 3. You need to know this. How do you relate this number 3 to number 2? Because when you know the rulings, and then when you know the purpose of the rulings, then you can actually, what you can do is actually extracting the evidences from there, so that those evidences can create a new set of rulings. I'm not saying that maqasid can become the adillah. Don't get misunderstanding, because maqasid cannot become adillah, but It can help to become adillah. There is a term we call it qareena. It cannot become dalil, which is adillah, dalil, adillah, but it can become qareen, which is actually close to dalil, qareen, which can actually a supporting evidence. It can become the supporting evidence for adillah. So now he talks about number 3, adillah, because where he talks about how do you extract, because you have the rulings. Allah said, do not even go near to adultery. Allah said, do not steal. Then what is the purpose of not stealing? So the purpose of not stealing is actually to safeguard everybody. Because if Allah allows stealing, someone can steal your property and you can steal somebody's property, and then there is no injustice, and then there is no harmony, and then everybody deprived, everybody live in trouble, everybody live insecure. And when you are insecure, there is no life in this earth. It's rather die, rather than living, it's better to die if there is no insecurity in this world. So now you can see that the maqsad of not stealing, and then from that maqsad, what you can understand, insecurity. So this being insecurity is not the right thing to do. You need to do secure. You need to do the security. This is what we call, you learn from the maqasid, you learn that adillah. So now you understood that security is important. Just from that one verse, do not steal, you learn that security is important. Then you do the next thing, which is actually ijtihad. That is number 4. That is what Imam Shatibi, the 4 chapters in his book al-Muwafaqat, al-Ahkam, al-Maqasid, al-Adillah, number 4, al-Ijtihad. So there must be some connection between all these 4. So when you learn already insecurity is wrong, security is needed, from that security is needed, now you do ijtihad, you bring all kind of security, whatever the right thing to do, you make it in this context. Okay, when Allah said, do not steal, can I steal data? Allah said, you cannot steal, right? If I steal somebody's property, it is actually haram, so I must be punished. What about stealing somebody's data, online data? What about stealing somebody's online work? What about stealing something which is actually, it's not a property, but in different way it is a property? See, this is all you can answer when you think in this way. Maqasid, adillah, and then ijtihad. Right? It is because when we agree that stealing somebody's phone is wrong, is haram, what about hacking somebody's phone? It is as equal as it is haram as well. I cannot come and say that stealing phone is haram, but stealing and hacking somebody's phone is makruh. No, I'm not following the maqasid. If I said that, drinking this kind of wine is haram, but drinking this kind of beer is not haram, but it is makruh, I cannot say that because I'm not following the maqasid. It can bring on to so many things like that, because whatever it goes, it leads to that haram. It's actually also haram, right? So if someone come and say that adultery is haram, what about being as a couple? What about dating? What about, one day going away, going out? Think about it through maqasid. Then you will understand whether it is haram or not. Right? So that's the reason. That is the reason why it is important to understand the ahkam, and then the purpose of the ahkam, Then from there you need to learn how to extract the evidences. Then you do ijtihad, you become mujtahid in your own way, in your expertise, in your field, you become the mujtahid. I think that is what actually Imam Shatibi wanted everyone to study. By the way, as I told you earlier, the idea of maqasid was there all the time, but the study of maqasid, it was not there, it came later. And let me tell you who started it. The first person who started, as far as I know, it was Sheikh Ibn Ashur. Sheikh Ibn Ashur, I hope I have the book with me. Yeah. Yes, I have the book. Sheikh Muhammad Al-Tahir Ibn Ashur, his book name is Maqasid al-Shari'ah al-Islamiyah. He added the word al-Islamiyah. So he is the first person because he used to teach al-Muwafaqat to his students in Tunis. Of course, Imam Shatibi from Andalus, Spain. And then we have who came very, very late after many, many years, almost like 700-800 years after, right? Sheikh Ibn Ashur is the one who started teaching, because so many others also talk about it, but the one started teaching to the students, teaching to the university, it was actually Ibn Ashur. So there is something that I am going to tell you, which you will surprise to know, because that is true. It's been many, many years until Sheikh Ibn Ashur started teaching. No one actually was teaching this book to the students. So Kitab al-Muwafaqat was a kind of in a position that nobody has looked at it. That's the reason why the book was not published until it was quite late, very, very late. So many decades. It's been so many decades, you know, people didn't give the attention to that book, al-Muwafaqat. It's been there. Luckily, alhamdulillah, the book was not destroyed, so it came to us. So Ibn Ashur is the one, the first person. After the, mashallah, we have so many other scholars like, you know, Ibn Abdul Salam. Then we have Gamal. I think his name is Gamaluddin. Jamaluddin Atiyah. He talks about, it's a book of him, نحو تفعيل مقاصد الشريعة. He talks about the same maqasid al-Sharia, how to bring into existence, into practice. He talk about the practical aspect of maqasid Sharia. So that is what actually the thing. You need to learn from this class at least. You need to learn this. The study of maqasid is actually quite new. It is not as old as, you know, ilm usul al-fiqh, right? I know you've been studying usul al-fiqh and also fiqh for economists. The basis of that book is actually, I mean, the basis of that discipline, I mean, the usul al-fiqh is actually quite old and then is well established. But the discipline of the study of maqasid, it is still ongoing. For that reason, it is quite practical to talk, and also it is quite relevant to talk about it, especially in the context of economics development, because that's the reason why maqasid plays a vital role in Islamic economics, only if you understand properly what exactly the maqasid al-Sharia. Right? Sometimes the word maqasid is being used just for the sake of attractiveness, attractive. It is not the word of attractive. It is the word of substance, the real substance. If you don't have it, then it will create some other problem. Sometimes some work has been done just for the sake of, you know, mentioning the word of objectives, the maqasid. But what exactly the objectives of Maqasid Sharia? In other way, what exactly the objectives of the Sharia? You got it? Most of the time, the work represent in a wrong way. It's been used in a wrong way just for the sake of uh, the purpose of, for example, I give you an example. Yeah. um, of course riba is haram, right? Just give you an example. Of course riba is haram. But someone comes and says that maybe according to the need of people today, and according to the financial market today, according to this interest-based economy today, right? One, two, three, four, five, so many according to. Then someone come and says that taking loan from the conventional bank is allowed according to Maqasid Sharia. Because someone said, because Maqasid Sharia is actually protecting the five elements, this and that, kind of things. And then someone come and say that taking riba in conventional banking system, it is allowed because of this, because of that. Now, he is not the person who says that. He is not actually representing exactly the objectives of the Maqasid Sharia. He is actually using the Maqasid Sharia for the purpose of his own objectives. So now that's the reason why we need to understand this clearly. Alhamdulillah, our university is offering a course on this. I think some of you may be doing it right now, or maybe maybe next semester you people are going to do. I hope inshallah you take that subject. Quite interesting. Quite interesting to learn those things. And then we have dedicated the whole semester, for this purpose of that Maqasid Sharia. All right. So I just want to give you a few things for today's class. What I'm talking to you right now is actually, when you talk about Maqasid, this is what Imam Shatibi is actually, al-Shatibi's Maqasid. He talks about two sections in his chapter of Maqasid. He talks about the intention of lawgiver. Then he talks about the intention of the subject, you and me. Yeah. So under the intention of the lawgiver, he talks about so many categories. The first category is actually legal obligation and underlying purposes. So what is the underlying purposes? Then he talks about the three categories, which is actually zaruriyat, necessary, essentials, or hajiyat, needs, or you may call it necessary. All right. The translation always, goes here and there, but you need to understand the word zaruriyya, hajiyya, and then tahsiniyya, complementary norms. Again, here there is also some sort of misunderstanding when people talk about these three categories. How do you explain these three categories? Daruriyya, hajiyya, tahsiniyya. According to the literal meaning, people easily take it, okay, daruriyya means the most essential one, which is actually food items, food, let's say food, the necessary, the essential food is actually daruriyat. Then additional food is actually hajiyat. Then the buffet, the menu, the 5-star kind of hotels, foods and everything become tahsiniyat. The same thing goes like for vehicles, for house, the top level houses, the top level luxury life is actually tahsiniyat. It is another misunderstanding I would like to tell you, because Imam Shatibi never talk about the luxury life. He never talk about it. He never talk about it. I don't know which scholar talk about this luxury life is actually tahsiniyat. That's what I said. There are so many misunderstandings, and you have to be very careful. If someone teaching you, you should ask, where do you get it? Yeah. So I've been gone through Imam Shatibi and other scholars. They are not talking about this tahsiniyat when it comes to luxury life. They talk about tahsiniyat in the sense that you do one thing, you follow the hukum of Allah, and while you are following the hukum of Allah, you do the best the far best become tahsiniyat. Right? One example I can give you. In the prayer is actually praying the fard, the wajib, the 2 rak'ah of subuh is actually daruriyat. The additional prayers are becoming hajiyat, like sunnah, the nawafil. What is the tahsiniyat in that prayer? The tahsiniyat in that prayer is you woke up early and then you do the proper wudu, isbaghul wudu, the proper complete wudu, and then you walk to the masjid every step, and then you wait and you wait for the prayer, yeah, and then you finish the prayer and then you finish your tasbihat, and then you wait until you pray your ishraq, and then you do some tilawah, dhikr, salawat and everything, then you come home. So this is the complete set, is actually package, the complete A package is actually a kind of tahsiniyat. The same thing goes to, that one is for the deen. If you want to talk about the life, if you want to talk about your food, if you want to talk about your eating, the thing is actually, hajiyat is actually what is necessary to eat. That is what zaruriyat, sorry, that is zaruriyat. The hajiyat is actually what actually you add nutrition to your health. The tahsiniyat of eating is actually not the luxury eating, it is actually properly you follow all kind of adab while you are eating. You eat in the way Prophet ﷺ taught you to eat. You start with Bismillah, you share with people, you share with other animals if you have excess food. Yeah, that is the tahsiniyat. You make not, you don't buy one food, you buy many lunches and dinners, and then you share with everybody, and then you eat and you make them eating. That is what the tahsiniyat. Look at how many examples I should give you. Today is not actually something that you don't see. People cooking for thousands of the people, and then they are distributing. You have seen in YouTube, so many people are opening their YouTube channels for cooking, and then they are cooking, and then they are actually giving to the orphans or orphanage, giving to the schools. Unfortunate students are, there are people are there, unfortunate, misfortune students, and they are actually providing food, supporting the food. So this is actually tahsiniyat. It is not actually only that I eat the luxury food, I go to a 5-star hotel, I pay 300 ringgit per lunch. That cannot become tahsiniyat, it can become israf. All right, so I want you to understand the idea of tahsiniyat in this way. Then beautifully Imam Shatibi, when it comes to Maqasid, he talks about each and every category, zaruriyat, hajiyat, tahsiniyat, has to go with 4 set of subcategories. I think most of the time we don't talk about this, right? Imam Shatibi talks about there are 4 subcategories. The way the 3 of them is actually positive aspect, 1 of them is actually defensive aspect. Let me tell you what is the positive aspect. You have ibadat, worshipping, and then you have adat, which is actually your practices, lifestyle. Then you have your muamalat, which is actually financial transactions. So you have ibadat, you have adat, you have muamalat. Ibadat is actually worship. This is your part of your life. If you put your life into, if you think about your whole life as a package, then you will end up into these 4 subcategories. Whether you pray, ibadat, what else you do? Your own life, adat, which means you sleep, you go to bathroom, you eat, you talk to your friends, you go to your work. So this is your practices. Okay, going to work is actually number 3, muamalat. Other than your practices, lifestyle, what else you have? Your muamalat, whether you work, whether you go to office or you do business, whether you are traveling for business, whatever it is, it comes under muamalat, right? Then we have these three things actually the positive aspect. And then you have the fourth one is actually called jinayat. This jinayat is actually offenses. It comes like, all this amru and nahi comes under this preservation of all the purposes, defensive aspect. For example, like, if there is no government is monitoring the jinayat offenses, then everyone can actually go haywire. Everyone can do whatever they want to do, right? So that is actually what we call it a jinayat. So there is a system, there's a judiciary system. We always afraid that, when we are in the car, driving the car, we always follow the signals. Why? Because if we didn't follow the signals, then there will be a summon. So this is a jinayat. So our life is actually, people are watching us, there's a monitoring services are there, and we need to just follow the rules, following the rules. Yeah. So now, according to these four categories, if you put like, the first one is ibadat, which is actually your spiritual. The second one is adat, which is actually your habitual. The number three is muamalat, which is your financial. The last one is a jinayat, which is actually your judicial. So you actually can put each and everything under this. But let's say you have 5 essentials that we talk about, right? The 5 essential, what are they? Yes. What are the 5 essentials? Deen, nafs. So you have number 1, faith. Number 2, life. Number 3, posterity, nasl. Number 4, reason. And then you have mal, your wealth, your properties. So now if you put all these together and all these comes as a necessities, right? So now if you put all these essentials comes under necessities, I mean the daruriyat number 5, then if you want to look into hajiyat of this and then tahsiniyat of this, you need to look into the subcategories. See, for example, the deen can come under what? Ibadat, right? Your faith can come under what? Ibadat. Your life and your intellect, your life and your reason can come under what? Your practices, your life, because this is something to do with your life. So life and your intellect can come under what? Adat, practices. Then the remaining one is what? Actually mal. Mal and your nasl, progeny, because al-malu wal-banun, zinatul hayat ad-dunya. So what is your properties actually? Whether it is your property means what is your mal in this world is actually your properties and also your children, just your family. Al-malu wal-banun, zinatul hayat ad-dunya. So now this one comes under muamalat. This one I'm talking about the essential 5 values, right? If you move into hajiyat, then each and everything has the same thing. For example, in ibadat, you have the hajiyat. Then you have in adat, you have also hajiyat. In muamalat also you have hajiyat. In jinayat also you have hajiyat. The same thing goes to tahsiniyat. In ibadat you have tahsiniyat. In adat you have tahsiniyat. In muamalat you have tahsiniyat. In jinayat you have tahsiniyat. All right. For example, if you want to talk about hajiyat, what are the ibadat in hajiyat? So for example, Allah said you have to pray 5 times. It's actually essential. There is no way that you can escape on it. But when you are traveling, there are some facilities that Allah has given to you. What are they? You can do jama', all right? You can pray together to Zuhar and Asr, Maghrib and Isha. Or you can also pray Qasr. In the place of 4 rak'ah, you only pray 2 rak'ah. So this is actually hajiyat that Allah has given. Allah has given you the permission to reduce your prayers in the time of in the time of traveling. Also for adat, your lifestyle, in your life practices also, what are the hajiyat? I know safeguarding your life is actually essential. For that you can do hunting, you can reside in some places, you can do the drinking, you can eating. So these are the things comes under hajiyat. Then what about the muamalat? In the muamalat, whatever the transaction you are doing, whether it is the qarad, two people together working together and investing something, or two people working in the farming, right? So these are the things, salam, for example, istisna, all these kind of contracts all comes into what? Hajiyat. That's the reason Allah has allowed us to do mudaraba, murabaha, musharaka, all these things comes under hajiyat, comes under muamalat, right? So the same thing you can also do in tahsiniyat. In ibadat, what is the tahsiniyat? This is what I told you earlier. What exactly the meaning of tahsiniyat in ibadat? You go and you complete your prayer in a best way. You remove all kind of impurities covering all the part of the body, because you, of course, in order to pray you just need to make wudu. You make wudu, ablution, you can pray. But what if you take bath and then you go to prayers, and you have your clean shirt and pant, you have your clean dress, and then you go to the prayer. You have your perfume and you go to your prayer. This is what tahsiniyat in ibadat. And also tahsiniyat in adat. Tahsiniyat in adat is what? Adab of eating, drinking, avoiding the filthy things, injurious things. Eat something good for your health and good for everybody, right? So these are the things. In muamalat, of course, the best muamalat is actually tahsiniyat. It's not the highest paying, it's not the highest earning or yielding, it's not that. It's actually you go for the sustainable transactions. You do some transaction by which is actually there are so many good things are happening. You work in an industry where you are actually contributing good values to the people. You got my point? You create something, you produce something. This is where actually we need to talk about, because this is what today's topic. Tahsiniyat in muamalat. How do you do that? Tahsiniyat in muamalat doesn't mean that we need to earn a lot of money, big car, big house. Tahsiniyat in muamalat, tahsiniyat in business transactions that we are learning, it is how you use the utility, you convert the utility into maslahah. So today we are actually discussing here, most of the time, that is the most important topic is actually maslahah, right? So all this hajiyat and then before these essentials, zaruriyat, then tahsiniyat, then relationship with daruri and haji and tahsiniyat. This is all I think you learned earlier, maybe some other classes as well. I just want to go through all this, then come to maslahah. The characteristics of the Sharia. Then you have human needs, primary, secondary. You can all read all these things by yourself. This is all you learned earlier already. And then you have 8 types of activities and the Sharia rules. There is also a diagram. Later I can join. The diagram is not here, but all the informations are here. Then we have activities into the public interest. Then you have the role of state to play in this. All right. Then we talk about the most important thing that Imam Shatibi talks related to economic development, which is actually the theory of consumer behavior. So this here is what I want to bring this tahsiniyat. that I told you earlier. It is not only tahsiniyat. Before tahsiniyat, you have the hajiyat, you have the zaruriyat. That's why you are doing it. But when we talk about the welfare benefit, we talk about the maslahah. So just imagine if someone is working or producing the fossil fuel, yeah. So according to an economist, it seems like a very good industry. Of course, people makes millions and millions, and making that millions and millions, making that production, it is not only helping that group of people, it's actually helping the entire world in a way that people, manufacturing of the cars, manufacturing of the spare parts, manufacturer of the roads, you know, and then so many electricity from there, so many things are happening. But at the same time, it is also harming the environment. It is also harming, the surroundings. It is also harming the human life, especially people who lives beside those production areas. See, this is the other side. Actually, this is all, we are all part of this. It is not actually someone, I don't want to say this is the, I don't want to tell, I don't want to like simply criticize this is the outcome of the modern economics. No, we are not here to criticize somebody. It is who we are today. We are actually following this. This is not somebody coming and putting you that you have to follow this this type of policies. You have to follow this type of, no, it is actually, we are actually taking, we are actually adapting those policies according to our needs. That is the truth. Because most of the time when we talk about Islamic economics, we always criticize the conventional economics. I don't think that is the right way to do. How are you supposed to criticize the scientific discoveries? Maybe some scientific discoveries are very good for the human life. Of course, you see the light, you see the air condition, you see the telephone that you are using, everything, including the mic, the speaker, everything that I'm using it today, because it's helping me to talk to you, even though we are sitting far. Yeah, it's connecting us. But there are some other scientific discoveries also is actually harmful. It's not useful. It's actually there's a two side of it. So now, can you come and say that there must be Islamic scientific discoveries, there must be Islamic technology, there must be Islamic engineering, there must be Islamic astronomy, there must be Islamic space program? We are all into this. We are all together in this. We are all together in this. Do you think that if there is Islamic economics, then there is no poverty, or there is no people will not be having through what they are having through because of the COVID-19? To me, it is actually, we are all part of this. Yeah, and no one is actually pushing us to follow certain things. It is actually, we are adapting it because of the need. And it is only how do we practice it. It is not how it is how you practice it. So now, when it comes to action, because Islamic economics is actually action oriented, it is something, it is not, Islamic economics is not something that introducing a new system of life, introducing a different alien style or something. It is actually action oriented. How do you understand your own action? Because you are responsible for your own action. That is what actually tahsiniyat is teaching us. Tahsiniyat is what actually you become perfect. If you are perfect, okay, you are perfect. Become more perfect. Become the perfect. Yeah. So that is, in that context, if you look into any muamalat, any production, any consumption, like Imam Shatibi talks about consumer behavior. because the consumer behavior is important. Why there are so many um, uh, fossil fuel is being produced, why there are so many cars are being used? It's because of our action. If you and me stop buying cars, who will buy? Who will produce car? Because there is a demand and automatically there is a supply, because we want the car. If you and me are ready to use electric cars, for example, yeah, if you and me are ready to walk using the bicycle, the production of those kind of things will be reduced. If you and me are good with the if you and me are okay, if you and me are going to be satisfied with the renewable energy that they are talking about, then I don't need this aircon all the time on. I don't need the lights all the time on. It's because of our action. It's because of you and me. It's because of you and my need, and it's because of allocating our wealth into that kind of need, that kind of wants. Yeah, because I want everything, because it is simply because I want. I think we talk about it between need and want. I want iPhone. And do we know how many liters of water, how many amounts of this resources need to be sacrificed just to make one iPhone? I'm not talking about only iPhone, by the way. I'm not that kind of man to criticize something. I'm just talking about anything. Let's say the jacket that I'm using, if there's a leather jacket that I want to use, almost 15,000 liters of water is being used particularly to create one jacket. If you look into the fast, I'm not really talking, I'm not, it is not about fast food. Fast food is the different, of course, area we can talk about, we can talk about hours. But what about the fast fashion today that we are doing? The dresses that we are buying, are we using the dresses, keeping the dresses for more than 6 months, more than 1 year, more than 2 years, 3 years? Or are we keeping changing it every month, every week? Last time the seasons were only once a year or maybe 3 times a year. Now if you go to some sort of retail shops of the clothes and everything, you will see 57 season, meaning to say every week is a new season, every week there's a new design. People want to buy because people want to use it. So it's you and me. So I think this is a takeaway for you from this Maslahah. Yeah, this is what actually Imam Shatibi talks about. I think you can go through this one by one. Efficiency, he talks about efficiency. He talks about wants versus needs. Yeah, and then he talks about the Maslahah versus utility. What is the purpose actually? Because if there is no utility, you will not buy. If let's say you want to buy a watch, so what is your utility? What is the utility that you want to buy this watch? Of course, there is a watch for 100 ringgit. There is also a watch for 1,000 ringgit. Right? Both of them showing the right time. By the way, both of them together will show the right time. The price is different. Is it okay if I use the right watch? Or is it okay I want to use the watch that cost me 1,000 ringgit? I want to use it. So now it's between need and want, and also it's between Maslahah versus utility. I hope you can go through all this. Yeah. He also talks about the types of Maslahah. Amazing. He talks about the basket. You should have at least 2 baskets. One is the basket for the herein, for this world, the basket for the next world. Let's say you earn something in mu'amalat, and after earning, or you want the purpose of earning, is it you want to put something in the first basket or the second basket, or you want to keep something for the second basket? If my purpose of earning is only for the first basket, of course I can fill the basket. I can enjoy the life, but when it comes to the next life, I might not have anything. Or can I allocate some of my income some of my expenditures. I can allocate some of my revenues into, fill the second basket as well. So what I am earning, I am utilizing it for the purpose of the second basket, then that is the right basket to do. So that is what actually he talks about, these two kind of maslahah, types of maslahah. And he also talk about the role of the state in ensuring maslahah. The state must be, keep on reminding us, this is not good enough. I talk to you for 20 minutes. I talked to you just now for 20 minutes. Do you think my life also cannot change and your life also cannot change because of the 20 minutes? It has to be the system. The role of the state must be there, always reminding us, this kind of Islamic principles. I think hopefully I just covered the entire thing, but it is not one by one. I didn't have that time. So I open the floor. If you have any questions, please you can ask. Also, let me share with you the attendance. Yeah.